Sacramento. Right now it is time, as we do every Wednesday at 8, kind of the mark of the hump day. It would be absolutely perfect if we had her at 7:30, because that would be the exact middle of the week. Joining us right now from Milwaukee, by the pool, with a drink in her hand, Kayte Christensen. Good morning.
Good morning. You're kind of close. I have a coffee and I'm sitting by an ice skating rink that is empty.
It's empty, huh?
That sounds depressing.
Yeah, well, they haven't filled it up yet. Despite the balmy 35-degree weather out here, I guess it's not quite ice skating weather.
I've been in Milwaukee once. It was on the RV trip. We went and ate at some German restaurant. Everything looked like Laverne and Shirley. I'm not joking. Like, it literally looked like Laverne and Shirley out there. Do you ever venture out in Milwaukee, or is Milwaukee one of those hotel-mainly places?
Well, it just depends on the trip. You know, like last night I ate in the hotel. It just depends on, you know, if it's the start of the trip, not really, because you don't really have the time if there's a day off. Yeah, Milwaukee's beautiful. I really like it here.
Wow. Milwaukee's beautiful,
Yeah.
Jay.
Oh.
It is beautiful, especially at Christmas.
Does it
Come on
remind you
now.
of home? It's all snowy and desolate.
It's not desolate, you dork.
It's Wisconsin.
We were asking, we had Kevin Herter on a few minutes ago, and we were talking about how this is a rough road trip, especially the first two games. But is there something, Kayte, as somebody who's traveled with the team forever, but also who played, is there something you would agree with on the road trip that can bond teams that, you know, I mean, even you, for example, you know, I know you're not playing, but you're working and kind of the same thing, you know, you love your family, but you don't have your daughter up your, you know what, constantly. Wow. You're not doing 70 home projects. I mean, in some ways I would imagine road trips can be easier than at home when it comes to outside distractions.
Yeah, because you're just kind of together, and you know, when it comes to bonding, absolutely. As players, you do more things together, you eat more meals out, that kind of thing. And then, you know, like for instance, I ate downstairs last night, and I was eating by myself, but people filtered in, and before you know it, there's 6 people sitting there, and we're watching the game and just kind of chatting and talking. And that's not really something you get at home, because you come to the games, you do your work, you go home, and you have your responsibilities, but the road is fun for that, because you actually get to, spend time with people, and you bond.
Kings Color analyst Kayte Christensen joining us from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Kayte, earlier in the show, me and Dave were talking that I think this is going to be a big game, especially when it comes to Domantas Sabonis with Lopez, with Giannis out there. How do you see, the Bucks defending Domantas, and how do you see him matching up on the defensive end as well with a three-point shooting big like Brook Lopez?
Yeah, that's the interesting part, right? So I watched the Milwaukee-Orlando game on the flight out here, and, they were without Brook Lopez, they were without Grayson Allen, and they barely squeaked out a win in Orlando. And, I was thinking about it last night. No matter what, now the big change this season with how well the teams are playing and kind of their transition into being a competitive team night in, night out, they're getting everybody, for the opposing team. No one's going to rest. No one's going to sit out. And so Brook Lopez is back. Grayson Allen is back. So, they're kind of facing a full roster, with the exception of Joe Ingles, who is, recovering from an ACL injury. But, I think when it comes to Brook Lopez, he really is having a phenomenal season, like defensively really leading the charge, and he changes everything for them. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles Domas, who also is shooting the ball incredibly well from outside right now over, I would say, the last 7 or 8 games. So it should be an interesting matchup to see how he handles that, because you can't really bag off of him. And then when it comes to his passing ability, that changes everything. But defensively, this team is just really, really good. They cover a lot of ground. They have a lot of really good role players that come in and defensively impact the game. So it's going to be a challenge for the Kings, really, on both ends.
Not that anybody can guard Giannis, but who's your guess? Is Sabonis on Giannis and somebody else on Lopez? If they draw Sabonis out, like you said, on Lopez, now all of a sudden, who's your rebounder? How do you attack that Lopez-Giannis combo?
I'm curious who they're going to start on Giannis. I have a feeling that it might be Harrison Barnes because of his size, but it also could possibly be Keegan Murray, right? So we'll see. But, the interesting thing about it is, once a game gets going, unless it's dead ball situation, a lot of the time you have cross matches, right? You're coming back in transition. It's, you grab the closest side to you. So it's going to take a lot of communication on the part of the teams. And, I think Giannis, he had another, like his 7th straight 30-plus game against Orlando. And I'm watching this game and I'm like, wow, it is incredible that he can have a 30-plus point game and you can watch the game and be like, he's not playing that well. It's wild, like the expectations with him. But you have to just show a lot of bodies at him, right? Because he is not shooting the three well. He really, if he gets the ball in transition in the open floor, it's all hands on deck. You got to show bodies. You got to make sure that you can prevent him from getting that head of steam to get downhill and get to the rim. So, I think I'm curious if they're going to show a lot of zone tonight and kind of clog up the paint. Orlando actually did a really good job doing just that. There would be 3 guys basically at the free throw line, and it would force him to have to kick the ball out. He didn't have a lane to the basket, and then it's just covering shooters and all of that. And then you have Chris Middleton back as well, who, that's a different component that he adds on both ends, really. So the Kings have a huge challenge to start this road trip tonight.
Katie, you mentioned Keegan Murray, earlier in your answer. Do you see him starting to finally break out of that slump?
I do. I think that really the turning point for him might have been that game in LA against the Clippers when the game was really in hand and you kind of had your third string guys in closing that game out. And he had, Mike Brown left Keegan out there with those guys and he started scoring. He started, I think, really building some confidence. And so I think that, that November slump that we kind of saw him in is kind of starting to be in the rearview mirror. But I am curious to see how he plays on this trip, because if you look at his home road numbers, he has certainly been much, much better at home. And I think that that's one of the challenges that rookies face is you get comfortable kind of in your home environment, but how do you respond on the road to different arenas? A lot of these places, this is the first time he's playing in these different venues, right? And so as a shooter, from the perimeter, it changes everything. Like, you can play at crypto.com arena and it'll be different kind of in terms of what you see as a shooter if you're playing against the Clippers versus the Lakers because of how they light the arena based on who's playing. So, the Lakers kind of have that theater lighting, and as a shooter, that's a little bit easier for depth perception. So I think the big question mark since Keegan has really started to make some positive strides here over the last couple, is just how is he going to play on the road in these different arenas that he hasn't played in yet.
Could KZ Okpala be a factor at 6'8"? Can he match up with Giannis if Mike gets in trouble?
Yeah, no, I think that he'll see some time on him for sure. And I think, the last game against Chicago, I put it on my halftime box score, like that I send out on Twitter every game. He impacted that game in such a massive way in the first half specifically that it's never going to show up on a box score. And the good thing about KZ is that he has the versatility to guard a lot of different players. And so I think for sure you're going to see KZ on Giannis, and he has great length. He is very, he can move his feet really well. He stays with people. So, yeah, but Giannis he is just so strong and so physical. And, quite honestly, a little bit dirty. Like, I was watching that Milwaukee game against Orlando, and I was like, wow, there was a couple things that he did that are just kind of veteran moves. Like, you set a screen, and you use your kind of hand that's on the inside of the players going over the top, and you shove them into the shooter. And he was getting fouls drawn on the defense because he was creating contact that wasn't really there. And so you have to be really careful with Giannis because he's gotten very good at like the little idiosyncrasies of finding advantages for himself. So, I think it's going to be a very physical game, to say the least.
We have just 60 seconds left. Katie, I had said I think Kevin Huerter is your key to the game tonight. That's why I'm looking for to have a bounce back game against the Bucks. Point one player to me that you're looking to. That's the key to the game for the Kings.
Yeah, I think Kevin is going to be a key until he kind of starts shooting the ball like he was. And I think that's the fantastic thing is that the Kings have had success despite the fact that, a couple key players have really been struggling for an extended period now. I also think that, De'Aaron Fox is going to be a really, really big key. Drew Holiday is a great defender.
How is there a seagull in Milwaukee? Did you hear that?
That's a really good. It is a seagull. It is a seagull. There is water here. You do know that, right?
Oh, is that one of them Great Lakes? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead. I just heard it. There goes my 60 seconds. All right, it's been nice chatting with you.
I
heard a seagull. I have ADD. What do you want?
But to finish up the answer, I think it's De'Aaron. I think De'Aaron is going to be a big key this entire road trip because, he hasn't been playing at the level he kind of started at, and he's been battling, he's not been feeling well and some little bumps and bruises, and that's going to happen. But yeah, he is, what kind of spinners and leads this team. So I think it should be something we watch for.
Kayte Christensen live from Milwaukee. Pregame here starts at 3:30. We'll see you on the call. What was it last week? It was feet set, jumper wet. Good for you. We look forward to more tonight.
All right, fellas.
Take care. It's Kayte Christensen. We'll take a quick break. How the Kings can beat the Bucks tonight.